Support for solo adventuring and solo play in D&D and indeed in fantasy games in general has come really from the very beginning. What I'm showing you here is a copy of the Strategic Review from spring 1975. This is Volume 1, Number 1, and I'll read you what it says here at the beginning. What's going on here? The Strategic Review is the newsletter of tactical studies rules, which will quite naturally be used to carry advertisements for all of TSR's product line. However, it will do a lot more than that. Each issue will contain as many features and news items as we can possibly find space for. This being our first issue, all of the features pertain to our product line, etc. And what you can find here in the very first issue by Gary Gygax, with special thanks to George A. Lord, and preliminary testing credited Robert Kuntz and Ernest Gygax, is Solo Dungeon Adventures. And what this is a method for creating your own solo dungeon. And it says here, although it has been possible for enthusiasts to play solo games of Dungeons & Dragons by means of wilderness adventures, there has been no uniform method of dungeon exploring for the campaign referee has heretofore been required to design dungeon levels. Through the following series of tables, and it says, and considerable dice rolling, it is now possible to adventure alone through endless series of dungeon mazes. After a time, I am certain that there will be some sameness to this, however, and for this reason a system of exchange of sealed envelopes for special rooms and tricks and traps is urged. And then it goes on to describe what those might be involving other players. But the point here, well, I'll get to the point in a second. It goes on with some sort of more general instructions about the upper level above the dungeon in which your solo adventures are to take place should be completely planned out, and it is a good idea to use the outdoor encounter matrix to see what lives where. So that refers to the wilderness adventures and some of the material that's provided there. The first level of the dungeon is always begun with a room. That is, the stairway down leads to a room, and you go immediately to Table 5, which we'll see, and follow the procedure indicated. It tells you to save what you develop and to use your own discretion, of course. In a later publication of this, a version of this same appendix that came in 1979, it actually begins with some start areas for random dungeons. So they actually give you some initial layouts, but that was a few years later. In this particular article, the first, there was no mapping of that. And you begin with Table 1, giving you a periodic check table to see whether you continue along, whether you encounter something like a passage or a chamber or stairs or a dead end, something like that, the bigger picture. And the aforementioned Table 5 here is to roll for the shape, size, exits of chambers and rooms. And basically what this is, and I'm not going to go through it in detail because that wouldn't be terribly interesting, but I just want to show you the overview of the contours of what's provided for. There's a table to roll on for doors, for the side passages, for taking turns, and as we say, the beginning table here that they suggest you start with. And there is a provision for any room that is an unusual shape or size, how many exits there might be, and then of course the good stuff, like what is going to be in the room. Is it going to be empty, or have a monster only, or something special, or a trick or a trap? And then there's a treasure table. And the last page provides things for rules about what type of stairs they are and how far they go down, whether there are chimneys or trap doors. There's also this trick and trap table in general that provides for secret doors, walls, perhaps arrow traps, spear traps, etc. Then there's a gas subtable for the, if you rolled on getting gas, what that would imply. There's a table for creating some caves and caverns and whether there are pools of water in there, with or without monsters, and more details about the magic pools. Now, of course, there's a zillion of these things in the world now, and one might not have any cause to go back to refer to this one. But I just wanted to show it to you because I have used it, and I may be using it again in a video that's upcoming, just to demonstrate how really from the very beginning in D&D specifically, and one could say in general, the fantasy adventure gaming world, that solo play was envisioned and that a structure, a foundation was put in place to enable people to play and create worlds by themselves and for themselves. Thanks for watching.